coup is difficult for a coup to succeed in Nigeria. If you look at coups that have succeeded in Nigeria, coups that have succeeded in Nigeria are coups where you have a large consensus of major military persons. When the large consensus of the major military heads decide that they want to go in this direction. When you have a group of young people, young officers plotting something without having the consensus of the major leadership of the military, the coup usually fails. That is why you have January 1966 coup failed, you know. Other coup like that, like the assassination of Murtala, the coup failed, and the attempt to overthrow Babangida, the Gideon Oka coup failed. Where you have young officers plotting something, it usually fails. But when you have the major leadership of the military, as happened when Gowon was made head of state, in the counter coup of 1966, it happened in the coup of Murtala, the coup that brought in Murtala, the coup that brought in Buhari, and that brought in Babangida and Abacha. If you don't have the consensus of the top military leadership of the country, then it becomes a problem. If it's just a few officers, young officers that are running riot, right? They could succeed in taking out people. That could happen, but they usually fail in forming a new government. All they do is just to create more confusion, And now that we have Nigeria has multi-tribes, now we have a southwest person who is president, and this coup was planned by military officers mainly from the north, right? If they had succeeded in doing this, what kind of disaffection it would create, where it's seen that, oh, this is an attack against someone who is from the southwest, from the southern part of the country, the kind of ethnic strife, ethnic rivalry and suspicions and things similar to what led to the civil war, and you create a lot of problems, without really solving the current problems that we have. Coups are bad. They are bad. They are bad. Coups are not good for Nigeria, right? Because it's difficult to reach a kind of consensus about anything. The best in a constitutional democracy, the best is always through elective processes, where you have multi-party democracy, multi-parties, different parties fielding candidates, they slug it out in an election, and then at the end of the day, the person who has the majority and meets the constitutional requirements or meets the requirements for winning an election. When you have that process, it's usually better. And you know that in a democracy, no matter how bad the government is, you know that the time they will stay 4 years, 8 years, and they will leave. But in military, they can stay for as long as they want. In military, there's no election. In military, there's no rotation north and south. The military person is the one that leads and the one stays as long as he wants until maybe another counter coup takes place or something happens, and then there is now a consensus that, okay, let's return to democracy and stuff like that. So it's really bad. The politicians, the political class should look at these incidents. The ruling class should look at these incidents. There are lots to look at here, a lot of lessons to be drawn from this. I hope as the officers who have been charged, as they have been, taken to court and all that, I hope we'll get more information so that lessons will be learned so as to prevent what led to this and to ensure that it doesn't happen again, and people don't have reasons to do this because it's really, really bad for Nigeria. We just hope for the very best. You know, having, you could start, look at Sudan. Sudan started with them. Al-Bashir was the leader. They frustrated with Al-Bashir. The people were protesting against Al-Bashir. Military came in, removed Al-Bashir, and they got into power. Then the rival military said no. The rival military decided to fight against the Sudan military, and then we have a civil war situation. And Sudan now is the greatest humanitarian crisis in the world right now. And it all started from removing someone who is in power and military coming in. So military takeover could set, and it's happened in Nigeria with the civil war, could set off a series of events that leads to regional crisis and could lead to civil war, and it bodes no one any good. It doesn't do good for anyone. And bad as things are, when there's a level of stability and regular order, it's better than when there's a war or so much regional crisis or ethnic or religious crisis, up to the point that led to the civil war that took place 1967 to the 70s. I just hope that we don't go back to those dark years.